Right, good evening, everybody, and a very warm welcome to our online engagement event for Shaping Surrey's Future. I'm Tim Oliver. I'm the leader of Surrey County Council, and I'm joined by a number of others that I'll mention in just a moment. But just a few housekeeping things, if that's okay. First of all, thank you to those that are joining us online here. But there's also people joining from a live link at Dorking Library. If you have any technical issues during the webinar, which hopefully you won't, then we'll do our best to try and fix those straight away. But if we can't, then we'll post updates on social media. But we're not expecting any gremlins this evening. There is an opportunity for you to ask questions via the Q&A function. It's a Teams webinar, so those of you that are used to these sorts of things, you'll appreciate that you won't be able to unmute or indeed to turn on your camera during the session. So I'm afraid we won't be able to see you, although hopefully you'll be able to see us. But if you like to put your questions in the chat, we're going to try and get through as many as we can. We have got a hard stop at 8:15, but we've got plenty of time after some short presentations to take those questions. We've had some pre-submitted, but we'll take those that come in live as much as we can. This event is actually going to be recorded, so you're more than welcome to watch it as many times as you like, or indeed to share it with friends and family if you want a special night in. It will take a little while actually to go live, partly because we're getting British Sign Language interpretation added for those people that would like that or need it, and we'll announce that in terms of publicly when it will be available for viewing. So I'm very pleased to be joined here this evening by Councillor Claire Malcolmson, who is the Deputy Leader of Mole Valley District Council, together with Councillor Simon Waugh, who's the Deputy Leader for Elmbridge Borough Council. And then also we have Terence Herbert, Surrey County Council's Chief Executive Officer. There's some mugshots up here on the screen now. And then Nicola Kilvington, the Director of Devolution and LGR at Surrey County Council, together with Andy Brown, the Surrey County Council's Deputy Chief Executive and Executive Director for Resources. So that's the team of people. So everybody will just say a few words, and then Nicola will then kind of moderate the questions as we work our way through those. What I'm going to do, though, to start with, is to just give a little bit of an overview of why we're having this conversation. Then I'll pass to Claire Malcolmson, who will give her views, perspective from the Mole Valley. And then Simon Waugh from Elmbridge, and then Terence will explain why 2 unitary proposals. As many people will be aware, there are two proposals, one for 2 unitaries and one for 3 unitaries. We'll be focusing primarily this evening on the 2 unitary option, which is the one that the 3 councils are supportive of. And then Nicola will share an update in relation to community engagement generally and our plans for neighbourhood area committees. So just in terms of how this has come about, so on the 16th of December last year, the government published a white paper on English devolution with the clear intention of looking to have mayors across the whole of the country in areas that wanted it, but particularly to see if they could put a mayor in place by 2029. And indeed, we are just a few days away. We're expecting the bill to be published on the 10th of July, the English devolution, and now called the Community Empowerment Bill. And that will just, I hope, reflect the white paper and indeed the feedback that many of us have given the government. And this is about powers and responsibilities, accountabilities, and hopefully funding being passed down from Westminster, from central government, down to councils. That is something that we have all pushed all governments for many years. We have in Surrey a two-tier system. We have a county council and we have 11 district and boroughs that were set up now 50 years ago. And it's so the system, has worked, but actually we've seen over the years a number of councils become unitaries. So the two tiers have been consolidated into one tier. And that is the process that we're now looking to do ourselves here. Because of the way that the structure has to be set up and that the bill requires, Surrey is too large to be a single unitary council. So we have to divide down into either 2 or 3 unitaries, depending upon the outcome of the government consultation, which we'll talk a little bit more about. So from a council's perspective, that is what we are working on. And then in addition to that, there will then be a directly elected mayor, and I've got a little timetable here which we'll put up. But the mayor will then have a so-called mayoral strategic authority that will sit, if you like, at the top, and then you'll have unitary councils underneath the mayor, and then we'll talk a little bit about neighbourhood area committees. I don't know if we want to just put up the timeline on the screen. I can just run through that while that's coming up. We were invited, all two-tier authorities. There are 21 councils across the country now that have a two-tier structure. So Hampshire, Kent, Essex, Hertfordshire, and so on down here in the south. And all 21 councils were invited by the government to put in a submission regarding the sort of reorganisation and the timescale for doing that. We were selected to be in the first wave because this county has to split up before we can look at a mayoral devolution. We were selected in February of this year. We then had to, as all 21 councils had to put in an interim proposal in March 2025, which we did. And then in the case of Surrey, on the 9th of May, we put in our final proposal. And that is the one that the government is consulting on. There were 3 proposals originally suggested, but the third one, which was to do with Reigate and Banstead, joining up with Crawley, the government decided didn't fit the criteria, and so haven't taken that forward. So it's the two unitaries and 3 unitaries. That consultation is underway and finishes on the 5th of August of this year, 7-week consultation. And that's what we're really encouraging residents and businesses and partners to look at and to respond to. The government are running the consultation, and it's predominantly, it has to be said, from a government perspective, focused on strategic partners. So that's the health system, that's the police, it's the voluntary sector and so on. And if you look at our submission, our joint submission, you'll see that many of those partners have already written in and added their support to the 2 unitary proposal. But they'll all be formally consulted, and then the government will collate that feedback over the summer. And then we're told that we can expect a decision on whether it's 2 or 3 unitaries. And I don't think the decision will be either that. It's a binary decision between those 2 options. And we'll know that, we're told, hopefully by the latest of mid-October, hopefully a little bit sooner than that. And then what will happen is that we will then work on how we will then physically implement the disaggregation, the separating out of services and the consolidation of services within the district and boroughs. And then there will be an election in May of next year. The 2 or 3 unitary authorities will then be elected. In fact, they won't actually take over. The 12 councils, the current 12 councils, will remain in existence until March 2027. And there's a sort of a handover year. It's a slightly odd arrangement, but the 2 or 3 new unitaries will exist from next May, and then all of those councils, all of us, will then work together to do the handover, and they will take over from the 1st of April 2027. And we're then expecting an election for a direct elected mayor in May 2027, a month later. So there's a huge amount of work to do to get to that point, and to get to that point safely. And that's really what we have been working on, in fairness, all 12 councils over the last few months, to work out how we are going to achieve that. You know, this is a fantastic county. I always say to people that it is the best county in the country, and I truly believe that. It's a brilliant place to live, to work, you know, to visit, and indeed to do business. But of course, you know, there are vulnerable residents in this county, just as there are in others, and we have areas of deprivation in Surrey, and it's really important that we do everything that we can to deliver the 2030 community vision, which is that no one in this county is left behind, and that is a real driving force for the county council, and I believe for other councils as well. So we're in a good position. You know, we kind of know what we need to do. We know what the government's expectations are, and as soon as we have a decision from them, we can then press on with the implementation. So I'm going to stop at that point, and I'm going to hand over to, first of all, to Claire Malcolmson, who's going to say a few words on behalf of Mole Valley. Thank you. You're on mute, Claire.
Apologies. Thank you, Tim, for that overview. I'm just going to give a general introduction and then go slightly more into detail why we decided to go for two unitaries. I'd like to briefly explain why Mole Valley District Council supports the 2 unitary model for Surrey over a 3 unitary one, and how we're working to ensure local voices remain strong. After a detailed full council debate, Cabinet agreed that the 2 unitary model offers the best outcome for our residents. Members referenced advantages in terms of financial sustainability, democratic accountability, and effective service delivery. While both models show potential for financial benefits, the 2 unitary model shows greater net savings in both submissions, with ongoing budget pressures. It was our view that this gives the new councils the best chance to be financially sustainable while protecting service delivery. Members also considered whether there were any significant advantages from a democracy point of view to having smaller unitaries as proposed in the 3 unitary model. However, these organisations will still be much larger than current boroughs, so new ways of working with communities are needed in either case. Given this, MVDC agreed to support the 2 unitary model. We stressed the importance of continuing to work with parish councils and are happy to consider supporting the establishment of new ones where there is community support for this. It is for this reason that later this month, our council will consider launching a community governance review. We've also made clear that every division in Surrey should have 3 councillors to ensure fair representation, especially across rural, urban and semi-rural communities. We chose to align with Elmbridge because we share some similar pressures on housing, infrastructure and services, particularly in North Mole Valley. Joint planning will help the new organisation to respond more effectively. We're also proud to be part of a pilot for the neighbourhood area committees, bringing together councillors, the NHS, police and residents to embed decision-making at the community level. This is about more than structure. It's about protecting local assets, defending both statutory and non-statutory services, tackling climate change, and above all, doing everything we can to strengthen local government and community representation. While we didn't choose this process, it's driven by national government, we are choosing to engage to make sure our communities are protected and heard. I'd just like to read out our response to the question about why we chose 2 unitaries. Mole Valley remained open-minded regarding which option, either 2 or 3 unitary authorities, we believe to be most appropriate for Mole Valley moving forward. We wanted to ensure that there was sufficient evidence available in order for us to make an informed decision about which option would serve the interests of Mole Valley residents and businesses. We took our time to make a considered decision, digesting all available information made available to us before Council backed the 2 unitary proposal on the 6th of May, before the final proposal for Surrey was admitted 3 days later. Alongside Elmbridge Borough Council and Surrey County Council, we support a 2 unitary authority model, dividing Surrey into East and West as the most effective structure for serving our residents and businesses. We believe that a new authority containing ourselves, Elmbridge, Reigate and Banstead, Epsom, Newell and Tandridge is the most financial viable, able to sustain economic growth, protect our environment and balance rural and urban communities. The specifics will, of course, need to be fully considered in time, and we look forward to conversations with partners surrounding number of councillors, transitional arrangements, the need to be able to continue to establish town and parish councils where supported by local communities. The importance of preserving community assets, the wide range of additional services we have provided through choice, and how changes can be used to strengthen the role of local government in tackling climate change. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claire. We'll now hand over to Councillor Simon Ward from Elmbridge. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim, and also thank you, Claire. And Claire's obviously picked up on quite a few points that I would agree with. I'd first like to say that we didn't ask for LGR, and I personally and a lot of my colleagues also have severe reservations about the speed that the government are bringing this forward. Having said that, Elmbridge have approached this with an open mind. We have said at the beginning that we would look at the 2 or 3 unitary options, and we are led very much by the evidence and the data. And so when we approach this, the leader, Mike Rollins, and I, and our cabinet and all our other councillors said that we would consider all options put on the table in front of us. As we went through the discussions on this, it was apparent that the 3 unitary option that was put forward by the other districts and boroughs wasn't going to be in any way suitable or sustainable for Elmbridge. It would have had 330,000 residents and would have aligned us with Runnymede and Spelthorne, both of which councils have their own problems and difficulties. Elmbridge itself is robust, both in terms of our services and our finances, but even they wouldn't have withstood being in such a small unitary. And so we looked carefully at the evidence in terms of a 2 unitary option. And the reason we believe that that is the right option for Elmbridge is for a number of reasons. First of all, in terms of preserves the character of our borough. If we'd gone into the 3 unitary option, we would have been under massive pressure in terms of our housing and also our green belt. By being in the east, that allows us to work together with the other district of boroughs and Surrey County Council itself in making sure we can have a robust financial situation going forward, and also in terms of our housing and our green belt protections moving forward on that. Ultimately, the finances are going to drive an awful lot of this decision making, and the 3 unitary option, I'm afraid, didn't pass the tests financially in any shape or form. The 2 unitary, we believe, does, and we are fully supportive of that on the financial situation. The other is, of course, our demographics, where we sit, where we be put into Northwest as a unitary. We would be separated from the other boroughs. Only Walton Bridge really connects us with Spelthorne and also to Runnymede, and we will become very much a different sort of borough than how we perceive ourselves going forward. And the East option allows us to continue with our current identity going forward. So basically, we've looked at it on the evidence, we've looked at it financially, and we've looked at it how we can best protect our residents going forward. and we very firmly believe that the two-unitary option is the way forward. This has been discussed at length with members. Officers have briefed us continuously throughout, led by our Chief Executive, Adam Chalmers, and we have debated this at Council, and it has cross-party support going forward. And so very much Elmbridge are in the two-unitary camp.
Thank you very much, Simon. We'll now move then to Terence Fairweather, the Chief Executive of Surrey County Council. Terence.
Thank you, Tim. Now, as Tim said, our proposal is very clear and it's very strong. It's based on evidence. Now, in developing the proposal, we considered many factors like population, the demand that we have for our adults and children's social care, household numbers, housing building targets, people distribution, total miles of public highways, lots and lots of metrics and lots of factors, as you would appreciate. And of course, we looked at the finances across all of Surrey. Now, with these factors in mind, we set out all of the different options and scored them against the government's criteria for LGR. And the very clear conclusion was that the best outcome is to arrange Surrey into two unitary councils, West Surrey and East Surrey. And they will replace the current county council and the 11 district and borough councils. So what are the benefits of our proposals? Well, firstly, it saves money and it offers much better value for you, the taxpayers. It's got stable finances and that will protect our vital services in the future. The alternative proposals actually cost money. Secondly, it simplifies services. It delivers everything you need to a high quality with fewer points of contact and less confusion about who does what. And it will actually strengthen our local communities by connecting people through the newly created neighbourhood area committees in the towns and villages you live in and care about. And Nicola's going to talk a little bit more about that after me. Now, as Tim spoke about earlier, throughout the process, we engaged with our partners to ensure that the proposal works for Surrey. As a result, the final plan was jointly submitted with Elmbridge Borough Council and Mull Valley District Council, and it has been supported by many of our partners, including police, health, fire, business and community leaders. Now, at this point, government is reviewing our proposal and the other one from some district and borough councils who are proposing 3 unitaries. And government are consulting on these over the summer and will decide on the best way forward in the autumn. I think we're expecting a decision sometime around October. We will then work together collaboratively with all of the other councils in Surrey to deliver the government's vision, and we'll be gearing up for elections to the new authorities next May. Now, as you would expect, it's important that we continue to deliver our services as normal during this process, which is what we will be doing, and we will keep you updated along the way. So I'm now going to hand over to Nicola, who's going to talk about the community engagement plans.
Thank you, Terence. So I'm going to talk a bit about our approach to strengthening community engagement as part of local government reorganisation. This is an important focus for us and the councils on the call, but it is also an important focus for central government as well. We're going to be trialling a new local engagement system in 3 Surrey areas, and we're calling these neighbourhood area committees. The 3 areas that we're going to pilot this new approach in are Esher and Cobham, Dorkingham Villages, and Caterham and Wallingham. These neighbourhood area committees will consist of representatives from the current elected county council, district and borough council, and town or parish councillors where they exist, alongside our partners in the police, in health, in local voluntary and community sector organisations, and others in education, businesses, youth groups, and resident associations as well. Now, all these partners working together will seek to collaborate around local issues, and we're designing them as a key way for residents to link into, in the future, the unitary councils that will come in following local government reorganisation. But we're testing it now so we can do some learning and understand what works, so we're well set up for the future. The initial meetings for the 3 pilot areas will be held in July, where residents and these groups will be invited along, and they will help design the structures before further areas might get started up later on as we go through the learning process. We're going to be sharing more about how you can be involved in shaping this local engagement model to ensure it's meaningful and effective. You can keep track of what's going on with this on social media and also sign up to the Surrey Matters newsletter to find out more. Okay, now it's time for us to answer some of your questions. We've had lots submitted in advance, so we're going to take a few of those first. We will get on then to some of the live questions that are being asked. Please do keep posting questions as people answer the existing ones, and we can do as much as we can to get through these this evening. If there's any that we can't get through, then we will add them to our frequently asked questions page on the website, and we'll put up the answers there for people to see. So the first question then that's come in is, how much is local government reorganisation going to cost? How will funding be split between the 2 or the 3 unitary authorities? And who will be paying for the mayoral strategic authority to be set up? So Andy, I'm going to go to you for this one.
Thanks, Nicola. So in terms of how much is LGR going to cost, we anticipate that the investment, the resourcing for local government reorganisation implementation, firstly, is going to be a collaborative approach between all of the existing Surrey councils. We're looking to set up a multidisciplinary team with representation from all 12 councils to be able to undertake that. The details that we worked on for 2 unitary models were shown in our final plan, and indeed the 3 unitary models were there as well. The total estimated implementation cost for 2 unitaries is £85 million, and we also estimated that it was £95 million for 3 unitaries. At this point in time, implementation costs for a mayoral strategic authority have not been included within those figures. So the modelling covers all potential costs, such as branding, creating new councils, closing down the old councils, IT systems, alongside a programme delivery team as well. They are estimated costs and cover early planning through to the delivery of planned transformation benefits that are going to be needed over the several years of the new creation of the new unitary authorities going forward. Thanks.
Thanks, Andy. The next question then that was submitted in advance is, someone asked, what will happen to the debt held by some Surrey authorities, and what happens if government don't help with any of it? So Tim, I'm going to go to you for this one.
Thanks, Nicola. I think I'd start by making the point there's actually good debt and bad debt. So councils have used some funding, some borrowing to, in our case, to build schools, children's homes, specialist schools for children with additional needs. We've invested significant sums in Your Fund Surrey, which has supported village halls and village shops and so on. So that I would call good debt, because that's money going back into community investment. The bad debt is that debt that's been incurred on sour commercial investments. And there's obviously some very public examples of that in Surrey. We have been very clear, all 12 leaders of all the councils have been very, very clear with this government that this debt needs to be written off. It is of a size that it's just simply impossible and unfair for residents of Surrey to pick it up. And we've had some success in those conversations, particularly in relation to Woking, where the government have acknowledged the size of the debt and have indicated that they will provide so-called exceptional financial support, certainly for 26-27, and we'll wait to see what that number looks like, but they provided it this year and they will next year. But in that intervening 12 months, we will then, all of the councils will continue that dialogue with the government around a long-term solution. There is no doubt in my mind that they will be written off. We are not going to tolerate a position where that debt is spread across the rest of the county. So we've certainly got good engagement with Ministry for Local Government, and we're getting much better engagement with the Treasury, which of course is where ultimately the decision lies. So we are moving forward with that. Unfortunately, we can't confirm at the moment that the timescale for the write-off, but that's absolutely our expectation.
Thank you, Tim. So the next question, someone asked, why are we not having a referendum on this big decision for Surrey? So Terence, would you like to take that one?
Certainly, yes. Okay, so the overall process for LGR has been set by the government, and that's the process that everyone in Surrey, all the Surreys, are following. And this includes how government wish to approach the current consultation. They've decided that holding a referendum is not their preferred approach for gathering feedback for Surrey's local government reorganisation options. Instead, they're asking local people and organisations to share their thoughts on the pros and the cons of each of the options. So that's why it's really important that residents and businesses and partners share their views with government. So we'd like to encourage you and for you to encourage others to fill in the consultation, which ends on August the 5th. So that is your opportunity to let government know what it is that you think should happen in Surrey.
Thank you. We've had lots of questions start to come in now, which is great. So I'm going to take some that people have been posting as we've been talking. And the first couple relate to mayors and the mayoral strategic authority. So Tim, I think I'll come to you on the first one and possibly the second one as well. So the first one, somebody's asked, how will decisions by mayors be overturned democratically by the majority councils if they decide to do so?
Well, so the first point I would make is that the mayor themselves will be democratically elected, so they will have a mandate of their own. But my understanding is that if there are, let's say, two unitaries in our case, and a mayor, the two unitaries, leaders of those two councils would be able to outvote the mayor. So I suspect there will be some reserved matters where the mayor, ultimately has some say, or if you like, their vote is weighted. But I think for routine matters, the mayors are going to be strategic mayors. They are not going to be operational mayors. The operational delivery will absolutely rest with the unitary authorities. But equally, the unitary authorities must have an equal say in the overall strategy. So I think they will be able to outvote the mayor on the majority of issues, but the detail of that will be for negotiation.
Great, thank you. So I'll stick with you for the next one as well, if that's okay, also about mayors. So somebody said, I understand that the new strategic mayoral authority will just reconstitute the existing county of Surrey. This seems a missed opportunity. Wouldn't it be much more effective to combine with the two Sussexes and Kent? We have much in common as we share all of south of London's commuter belt. We also have prime rural areas of natural amenity areas and common transportation needs for both road and rail.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, and we have something called the strategic leaders in the southeast for exactly that reason. Actually, we also have a very strong relationship with Hampshire because of there's a shared economy on the borders there, and we had a so-called local enterprise partnership that we shared with them until very recently. When we started out on this process, I wrote, and I think we wrote a collective letter on behalf of all 12 leaders to those councils, to Hampshire, to the Sussexes, to Kent, asking them whether they would be interested in sharing a mayor. And at that, they came back and broadly said no. That they're all going through the mayoral election next May. And they were quite comfortable with that. I mean, it's an interesting point, and particularly now where we see what the health system is doing locally, which is looking to work more closely with, in our case, Surrey Heartlands, with Sussex. But at the moment, they're going ahead with their own mayoral elections. And as I say, and we wrote to some others, to the Berkshires as well, but there was no interest at that point in I'm afraid, if that's right, in any of them joining with Surrey.
Thank you. The next question that's come in, so it's about the timeline and the role of councillors. So Terence, I wondered if you might answer this one. What will happen to the current councillors? Will they step down after the elections next May?
Okay, so the elections next May will be to appoint elected members for the unitary councils, whether that's 2 or 3. And they will sit in shadow authority status until vesting day, which is 31st of March 2027. So all of the 12 local authorities in Surrey will continue to work to deliver services to the residents in Surrey, the county, for the whole of the Surrey footprint, and then each of the districts and boroughs for their areas. So no, they won't be stepping down. They will continue until the 31st of March 2027, at which point the 12 sovereign authorities will cease to exist. And those elected members who put themselves forward for the unitary councils will then be out of shadow status and will be making policy decisions and running the 2 or 3 unitary councils.
Thank you. So the next question is, will the government consider 1 Surrey unitary for maximum efficiency even at this late stage? Why is it too big? Is this not just an arbitrary number? Tim, I wondered if you would want to answer this one.
Well, it might be a question you want to put to the Minister of State, but it was been made very clear to us all at the very beginning that the government wouldn't support a single unitary, and indeed it's fair to say that none of the leaders, Surrey leaders, were supportive of it either. Yes, of course, and when we look at the detailed figures, there's no question about it. From a cost perspective, efficiency perspective, a single unitary would deliver the greatest savings. But that isn't an option on the table. As far as I know, and certainly from the briefings that we've had from officials during this process, that is not an option that is currently on the table. I mean, they're around the country. There has been quite a conversation around what is the right size. In the white paper, it talks about a minimum of 500,000 per unitary, and that's broadly what the 2 unitaries that we're proposing meet or beat that target slightly. But I know in Norfolk, for example, where there's 900,000 population, West Sussex is 900,000. The government is thinking that even at that level, and we're 1.2 million, that's too large. So the combined authority is the model that the government are pursuing, and 500,000 or thereabouts is what they believe to be the right size. But I think you could say, in fairness, it is an arbitrary number.
Thank you. The next question that's come in is about neighboured area committees, and someone's asked if they're different to the community boards that we talked about before. So I can take this one. I should really have said that, yes, in our final plan, we did refer to community boards, and we have since then changed the name to neighbourhood area committees. This is in part in recognition that central government have talked about the importance of hardwiring in community engagement to future unitary models, and they made reference to neighbourhood area committees, which are very much in alignment with the direction of travel for what were the community boards. So we have at the moment changed the name to neighbourhood area committees, although we are keen through the pilot work that I mentioned earlier to test that with partners and with residents. We know that boards, committees, forums, they mean different things to different people. We want to make sure that we use something that is meaningful and works locally. So we are taking some feedback on the name. The next question then says, if it's so clear that the 2 unitary option is the right solution for Surrey, why is there a proposal for 3 unitaries? So again, Tim, I might just come to you on this one.
So in the conversations that the 12 councils had, there was no agreement on what the split looked like. Indeed, the original proposal for 3 unitaries was different from the final one that was put in. So I think in an ideal world, we would have all got behind a single proposal. But as Claire and Simon have said, you know, there were particular reasons why Elmbridge and Mole Valley were supportive of the 2 unitary, the east-west option. You know, and we couldn't persuade the others that was, you know, that there would be a single submission. So, you know, I mean, it's good and it's healthy that there are options, and you know, and I hope the residents will, you know, will have the opportunity to look at the proposals in detail on our website and so on, and reach their own view on what it is. You know, we from the county council's perspective, you know, it is our services that are going to be split up. You know, we have a 1.2 billion budget here. 900 million of that is spent on adult social care and children's services. And you know, so our services are being split up where the district and borough services, if you like, are being consolidated. So joining together the planning teams and leisure teams and so on. So our view is that you know, we've been delivering those services for over 100 years. The team here, I think, have the expertise and knowledge to know how to do that safely. And their absolute view is that the fewer times that you split those services up, the less the risk is to things falling between the gaps. You know, that we have the luxury, if you like, at the moment in Surrey. You know, we have 650 square miles, 1.2 million people here, and a 1.2 billion budget, and we can move that money around the county depending upon where the demand is. So if there's you know, we saw post-COVID a big influx during COVID of people from elsewhere that sort of changed some of the dynamics within the county. But you know, with the scale of the size that we are, we could accommodate that and move the money to where it's needed. The more you cut it into slice and dice it, if you like, the greater the risk is. And you won't have the council tax base to fund to demand the service, the demand for the services, and that is the problem here. You know, adult social care inevitably is people services. It is about people. It is about their lives, their livelihoods, and you know, and we have to get that right. So for us, it was always one might have been the preference and might have been the safest way to do this, but that so for reasons that wasn't on the table. 2 is if you like the next best option.
Thank you. I've got a question now that we'll ask Claire and Simon to answer, if that's okay. Somebody's asked, what will the impact be on local funding for voluntary groups and services currently funded by the districts and boroughs? So, Simon, would you like to go first?
Yeah, thank you, Nicola. Yes, I mean, at the moment, for this current financial year, there won't be any change. And again, going forward to next year again, there won't be any change in that. And I think our budget on for the following year is about 306,000 and 60,000, about 370,000. So we are, of course, then it novates over to the new unitary, whether it's 2 or whichever area we're in, and that will then go forward on that basis. So, and I can't obviously answer that because that will be down to the new unitary to deal with. But certainly in the next 2 years, while we're still in position, there won't be any change.
Thank you. And Claire?
Thank you. This is a great question. Currently, Mole Valley, via MOVA, provides venue funding to Citizens Vice Mole Valley, East Surrey Domestic Abuse Service, and Central Surrey Voluntary Action. In view of the uncertainty being brought about due to the LGR, the Cabinet took the decision in February to extend the current 3-year funding to these organisations by an additional year to the end of 2026-27, so that there was as much reassurance as we can give at the moment. Now, we recognise the huge value of community, voluntary and charitable organisations that operate for the residents of our district, and they will feature in the planning for LGR. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've had another question come in that's on the neighbourhood area committees asking if they're going to have any power to effect change. So I can take that one. Part of what we're doing through the pilot phase is to look at what interest and appetite there is from neighbourhood area committees to influence both funding and decisions. We want to see whether there might be opportunities for them to support action plans that are informed by insight. And we're doing this in quite an agile way. So at the moment, they're not being set up to be constituted, as that will take some time to establish. But through the pilot phase, if that's the feedback we receive from areas that people feel the need for them to be constituted, we could look to explore that. But initially, it'd be very much about enabling residents and partners to come together to agree local priorities that are informed by evidence and insight, and seeing how they can influence and shape activity that is taken by the current partner organisations. I'm going to go to another question then that came in advance, which is what will be the impact on services? How will adult social care, for example, be split? So Terence, I'll come to you on that one.
Okay, yeah. So there is obviously a significant amount of risk with regards to disaggregation, but there will be no immediate changes to the operation of Surrey County Council or the district and borough services. And throughout the process, our work supporting all of our residents will continue. The services will be delivered, and we'll still be here for those who need us the most. Once we know the government's decision, we'll start working on implementation. If necessary, we'll disaggregate or split some of the services as smoothly as possible. And to mitigate that risk that I mentioned, it will happen over time. That said, obviously, the more that you disaggregate, the greater the risk, which is one of the reasons why we're supporting 2 unitaries rather than 3 unitary councils. So, for example, with SEND services, special education needs and disabilities, it may involve the creation of 3 management teams, 3 local information officers, and greater challenges in the capital programme, which is the Surrey School Estate, which is what Tim spoke about earlier. We also know that the more unitaries that are created, the less financially sustainable they will be. And while 2 unitaries saves money, 3 will add further costs, impacting their ability to support rising demand in service areas such as adult social care. Now, local government reorganisation has taken place in several areas over the last decade: in Durham, Northamptonshire, Dorset, Cumbria, and indeed in Wiltshire. And we're talking to colleagues in all of those other parts of the country, take on board the learning and ensure that we have an absolutely smooth transition.
Thank you, Terence. The next question, Andy, I might ask you to answer. What will happen to the council's assets, including property across Surrey? Obviously, the question might refer to all council's assets, not just Surrey County Council.
Thanks, Nicola. So, yeah, within local government reorganisation, existing council assets and indeed liabilities are transferred to the new unitary authority, and where there's a building involved, where there's property involved, they will transfer over to the area that covers the geography of the asset that the property asset is already based in. Now, once government's made their decision on the preferred structure for Surrey's local government in the autumn, there's a thing called the structural change order will be laid before Parliament to establish joint committees and effectively the governance that is needed to implement local government reorganisation. So that joint committee will be a body, and there will be councillors that will be set up on that committee, and they will be there to prepare the implementation plans ahead of the shadow authority elections in May 2026. And that plan, implementation plan, will then also include the approach to the transfer of the assets and liabilities from the existing 12 organisations, 12 councils, to the 2 or 3 unitaries going forward. Thanks.
Thank you. So I've got a question that's around why have we chosen the geographical split? So this is referring to the 2 unitary proposal and where we've suggested an east-west split. So I can say a bit about this as I worked on the business case that was submitted. So we did a lot of analysis that was looking at various elements, data and services, and we wanted to look at having an equitable starting point for the new councils across things such as so social care services, public highways, and other elements of that. We also looked really closely at the correlation between the costs of services, including social care, and the funding sources that the councils will have. And it showed that the East-West Surrey split would have the most equitable spread of that, and also therefore be most able to continue to provide high quality services going forwards. So looking now to some of the other questions that have come in live tonight. So we've had one person ask, who will maintain and fund existing Surrey-wide organisations such as Surrey Heritage Centre? So Terence, would you like to take that one?
I'm happy to. Randy, can you pick that one up? All right.
Yep, happy to pick that one up. So at the moment, obviously, from a Surrey County Council perspective, there are county-wide services and functions that are funded. If they cannot be split geographically, as part of what we've already talked about in terms of disaggregation of county council services, in terms of their ongoing and as part of the implementation, those joint committees that I talked about will need to decide the running of those services, because indeed they are county wide, but there will be decisions to be made about where the property sits, and then there'll be decisions to be made about the services that continue going forward. And no doubt something that will be on the agenda for those joint committees will be not least the funding, because there'll be a budget that will need to be set for 27-28, but there'll also be a conversation about how those services run going forward. Where we have seen local government reorganisation elsewhere in the country, where county councils have been split, there has been some kind of local arrangement put in place for those types of services, like the archaeology, the record centre and the archives are county-wide specific and cultural in that respect, in terms of the county, that there's a joint arrangement in with the unitaries that come into being. But of course, the funding of it will also be a decision that the new unitaries will need to make going forward as part of their first budget that they set in 2027-28. Thanks.
Thanks, Andy. Had a question come in that Simon, I might ask you to answer if that's okay. Somebody said, what will happen about local plans where they exist? They're based on boroughs?
Yes, well, it's a good question. Obviously, we have a statutory requirement to have a local plan in place, and I can just speak at the moment on behalf of Elmbridge, and of course we haven't at the moment got our local plan is out of date. We had a new local plan which was examined in public, and the inspector found that she was not happy because it didn't address the 2-year housing supply. We then asked for an extension of 6 months to actually, well, she would offer us no more than 6 months. We asked for 9 months to actually make those amendments to local plan to bring it forward. Which we couldn't do. It went up to it was actually discussed with the minister as well, and it came back. So we are restarting our local plan at the moment, which obviously has a lot of cost implications. Because of the 2-year timeline before the unitaries are in place, we have to carry on with that plan at the moment. So each borough, most boroughs actually have local plans in place, so they will carry on with those local plans. We still have obviously our statutory protections and so on and so forth. So going forward at the moment, we are looking at running our local plan. Of course, the difference I would imagine would be with the local, when the Surrey Mayor comes in place, obviously they probably will be looking at strategic planning areas. But again, that's something which we'll have to look at going into the future.
Thank you very much. Terence, I'm going to go to you for the next question. Someone said, can a referendum be requested?
Well, yes, I suppose anything can be requested, but I think the likelihood of government acceding to the request is unlikely. There is as has been pointed out, there's already quite a short timeline for the decision to be made, and then for the elections to take place. The government have said that they really want as many people to respond to the consultation as possible. And I know I'm restating my point earlier, but the more people respond to the consultation, the better. So yes, I'm sure it is possible to ask for a referendum, but I don't think with the timescale that we have that the government would agree to it.
Thank you. We've had another question come in on assets. So Andy, I might go to you on this one. Someone has said, what is the view of councils selling off community assets in the short term, thus having fewer or less assets to bring into the new structure? Is there any agreement in place to stop councils taking decisions that will negatively impact the new setup?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things there to consider. I mean, for the 12 existing councils, they are sovereign bodies and they can make decisions now, and that's within their gift to be able to do that. I mentioned the structural change order that will come in after the government's decision, and when that is laid at Parliament, there is a thing called Section 24 powers that each of the 12 organisations will need to abide by, and that there are powers that are decisions around selling property assets, also entering into contracts and long-term projects as well. So where those individual organisations still have powers to be able to sell assets for whatever reason that may be, and there'll be some specific reasons for those councils to undertake that. Once the structural change order is laid, then the shadow unitaries will have to effectively rubber stamp any further sale of assets going forward, and it will be the establishment of why that is being undertaken in terms of that council doing that role going forward, and why that is happening. So that's what's coming in terms of the future once the structural change order is laid. Thanks.
Thank you. A question that I'll go to Tim for, I think. So someone's asked, where and how do parish councils sit within either of these new structures?
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. There's been a lot of debate and conversation around exactly that point. What is the role of town and parish council? So, in just to put it into context, in Surrey, broadly 33% of the county has a town or parish council, and 2/3 don't. And that reflects the national position as well, as it happens. So I think Nicola has sort of described the sort of the role we're expecting of the neighbourhood area committees, although that will be finessed as we go through the pilot schemes. But absolutely, the town and parish councils, where they exist, will be a key partner within those area committees. I think the couple of things really that the government have sort of upped the rhetoric, if you like, a little in terms of how they see the town and parish councils fitting into this. We have a good relationship with the Surrey Association of Local Councils here, who represent the majority of the councils, and of course they do vary. I mean, you've got some very big, strong town councils to sort of parish councils. And not all of them necessarily would want to take on more responsibility for owning assets or maintaining assets. For me, the key thing about the area committees and the neighbourhood area committee is that it is a multidisciplinary setup. So, absolutely from a local government perspective, you would expect representation from the unitary councillors, and from the town and parish councillors. But as important is that we have real engagement from the health system, from the voluntary sector, and indeed from the police, which is why very early in this conversation we engaged with those organisations to make sure they were comfortable with the proposal. So, you know, we know as councillors that when we're on the doorstep, apart from kind of highways issues and perhaps social care or education, if you have a family member accessing those services, the other thing we hear a lot is around the lack of GP appointments, the lack of being able to register with a dentist and so on. So we really want to have those sort of, you know, those the primary care, if you like, the doctors and the dentists and people in that conversation, and indeed that's kind of where the NHS is sort of starting to move, or will have to move to as well. All of us, whether we're local government or we're the health system or police, this is all about prevention. Preventative activity is providing early support, early intervention to support those that need it the most. So the towns and parish councils will have a you know a good role to play within the neighbourhood area committees. The government have been clear that they don't see town and parish council as a substitute for an area committee or the equivalent. But clearly from a local government perspective, and we will be having conversations as a county council, ultimately it will be for the new unitaries to decide what they want to do, but we will be having conversations with the town and parish councils about, if you like, double devolution. What are the things they're willing to take on in terms of that local delivery? But as I say, for me, there's the four key pillars in our communities. In, you know, community being a town that people relate to, you know, that people do, you know, if you're away on holiday and people say, where do you come from? You come from Dorking, or you come from Stanwell or Farnham, you know, in Surrey, and so people do absolutely relate to that, and town and parish councils form an important part of that sort of democratic process. So you know, they will go forward. Now, you know, we may or may not see more town or parish councils being created. That will be a decision currently for the district councils, going forward for the unitary councils. But yeah, they will be a key part of the team.
Thank you, Tim. The next question I'm going to go to Andy for. So we've heard a lot from East Surrey councils and fully understand their support for the two unitaries, but with the West having to use 39% of its budget to fund the debt, how will the West provide services to the same level as the East, if any at all?
Okay, yeah, someone's done their homework with the stats. I think the issue there is obviously the debt within Woking, and we've already heard tonight about how the minister has given a clear steer on conversations around the stranded debt within Woking, and the submissions, both submissions were clear that a resolution needed to be happening on the Woking debt to ensure that the new unitary, for whichever unitary is going to succeed Woking Borough Council, will need resolution there. So I think the 39% at the moment is skewed because of the level of debt within Woking, and obviously once there's a resolution on the table with government, which we are working with government on, then that figure will come down, and therefore the services that will be presented in the East and the West from day one will be the same, and will therefore be funded going forward. And I think that was it's just a moment in time that is, as I say, is reflected from the Woking debt position. Thanks.
Thanks, Andy. Do you want to just stay? I know you're spotlighted on my screen, but I will go back to you for the next question as well, if that's okay. I've just lost. Oh, yes. So someone actually nicely gave us a bit of feedback as they started their question. So they said, this session is good and helpful. Thank you. So thank you very much for the feedback, whoever sent that in. But their question was, who pays the approximately 85 to 100 million transition costs?
Yes, well, quite matter-of-factly, it's going to be the 12 organisations are going to have to fund the money. There's no agreement at the moment between the 12 organisations about how that implementation cost will be split, but effectively it will be that the 12 councils will have to fund that. And in the past, through other local government reorganisations that have happened in the country, that has been funded by reserves that have been held by the councils that are going through local government reorganisation. Thanks.
Thank you. The next question then I'll ask Terence to answer. So somebody said, we're concentrating on what will happen to councillors, but how will staffing be managed? Terence,
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Nicola. I'm very happy to answer that question. Staff are our most important resource in all of the 12 local authorities, and we appreciate that this is a time of some concern or some anxiety for staff. But we will be working very closely with all of our staff across all of the local authorities to make sure that they know what is being planned and how we're going about it. The vast majority of staff will be chiefed across into the new organisations, and we'll work very closely across the 12 authorities into what new authorities that they will be working for, and we'll engage throughout, as we have done already, to ensure that they're kept up to date with all of the as we progress through the process. But as I say, the vast majority of staff will be across and see little change in how they deliver services to our residents.
thank you. Claire, I'm going to come to you next. I know you've had some connection issues, but hopefully you're able to hear this and answer. So we wanted to put the same question to you that Simon answered earlier, which was about local plans, and wondered if you wanted to give the perspective from Mole Valley. Okay, it doesn't look like Claire's there. We might try to go back to Claire. I'm going to go to back to one of the pre-submitted questions now, which Andy might come to you on this. It's asking, is council tax going to go up because of all of this?
I think it's fair to say that even with or without local government reorganisation, that council tax was indeed likely to go up. It is the main source of funding for council services, certainly within Surrey, and that's not just the county council, but also within the districts and boroughs as well. Some of you may have picked up the spending review, and indeed from the government's perspective, when they announced the spending review for local government funding, they expected maximum rises from council tax across the country. So there is an air of inevitability with or without local government reorganisation. From a Surrey County Council perspective, we'll be setting a budget next year for 2026-27, and any council tax increase would be decided in February 2026 as part of the normal political setting of the budget. Thanks.
Thank you. Tim, I'm going to go to you for the next one. Somebody's asked, will the role of police and crime commissioner be scrapped and the duties taken on by the future mayor?
Yes, it is the current proposal. The mayor would take on both the police and crime commissioner role, would also take over the fire and rescue service. So within Surrey, and it varies across the country, but within Surrey, the fire and rescue service is funded and supported by the county council. But that both of those functions, blue light functions, would go up to the mayoral strategic authority.
Thank you. Whilst we're on the mayor, I might then just go to one of the pre-set questions, or pre-submitted rather, questions that came in, and somebody asked, what will the mayoral authority do? So I don't know, Tim, if you want to take this as you're still spotlighted on the screen, or I can ask Terence to come in.
What will it do? What, in the sense of what is its function, or how will it be funded?
Yeah, what will the mayoral authority, the mayoral strategic authority, do?
So the government have set out 7 areas where they think that the mayor will be involved, which includes transport, So that's sort of buses and to an extent, limited extent, trains, I suppose. But predominantly, their main function will be to support economic development across the county. That's why this government is so. It's so clear that it wants to see mayors. They look at those existing mayors, whether that be Greater Manchester or the West Midlands and the newer ones, and they've seen greater growth in those areas. I have to say, I suspect that's partly because they've also been given considerable sums of money to carry out regeneration and economic support within those areas. So, but I think the economic growth is going to be the main focus and everything that sits around that. But as I've said earlier, it is much more of a strategic role than an operational role. One of the things that the points I've been making back to government is that there needs to be absolute clarity on exactly what the mayor does do compared with the unitary authorities. By doing what we're doing in terms of consolidating into a smaller number of councils, that should be much clearer for a resident who understandably doesn't necessarily know or need to know who collects their bins or who fills in their potholes and so on. But there will be one council that will deliver all of those services, and there's lots of synergies and lots of benefits in doing that around homelessness and housing. Particularly for providing supported living for older people and so on. So we just need to be clear what the mayor, what responsibilities they do have, and what rests with the unitaries.
Thank you, Tim. I think it's helpful sort of note to end on there. So we started off saying that we're going through local government reorganisation in Surrey because of devolution, and Tim, you brought that back to kind of some of the key reasons why we are looking to pursue a mayor on a Surrey footprint. Thank you, everybody, for the questions that you submitted. We haven't, unfortunately, had time to get to all of the ones that you've sent in. You've sent in some great questions, so apologies if we weren't able to address your questions today. We will be updating the frequently asked questions that we have on our website, so please do check back there to look for answers for anything you hope to see, and we will make sure that we get those up and available. There are a number of other ways that you can also stay in touch to keep track of what will happen with devolution and local government reorganisation in Surrey. So please do sign up to our Surrey Matters newsletter. Follow us on our social media accounts where we interact with residents and share all the latest updates. You can visit our website, as I've said, which will keep up to date with the latest changes. Please do go and speak to staff in libraries or in our contact centres, and you can also email us in questions with the email that's written there on the screen. That email is also available on our website as well. We're also going to be circulating a feedback form for the session, and you can use the QR code on screen right now to scan it and complete it. Please do share feedback with us. We'd really like to hear how you found the session this evening, and it will help us to shape any future sessions as well. Thank you all so much for joining us this evening.
And Nicola, can I just thank all of you that contributed this evening, and particularly Claire Malcolmson and Simon Waugh from Orwellian for Elmbridge, but thank those people that joined us. And I would ask residents as much as possible, please, to do have a look at the website to make sure you it is complicated for us who are kind of living and breathing. It is very easy, and I hope that we haven't been too jargonized in some of our answers, but please do have a look at the website. You will find a lot of information there certainly on the frequently asked questions. But thank you all very much for your engagement.
Thank you very much, Tim. Apologies, my internet went for the last 15 minutes, but thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tim, and thank you to the team. As you say, look forward to hearing more from residents as we go through this process.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night.